Late at night in 2012, a woman named Moon drove into Semyong City. She arrived at the Eden Apartments and walked to the rooftop, enjoying her food and the breeze while gazing at a house she longed to move into. The elderly landlady greeted her with a flower called the Devil's Horn, known for its strong scent, and pointed out the Angel's Horn, which bowed mockingly. As the landlady crushed a pot, painful memories flooded Moon's mind of being bullied by 5 classmates during school, bearing scars and pinning photos of her bullies on the wall. The worst was Park, a wealthy girl who became a weather broadcaster. In 2004, Park faced trouble for her bullying, but her connections helped her avoid consequences. Her mother expressed disappointment in her and warned her against associating with certain people, but Park ignored her advice. Park intensified her bullying, pushing Moon into the gym and tricking her into testing a curling iron on her arm. With the gym teacher bribed, the gym became their playground. Lacking support due to her poor background, Moon sought help from a school doctor, who noticed her scars and offered to report the bullying. The doctor was soon fired. Struggling with her pain, Moon contemplated suicide but ultimately collapsed in tears, finding solace in falling snow. When Park's gang learned she had dropped out of school, they were shocked to find she had reported them to the vice principal. Despite being scolded by her teacher, Moon stood firm, even confronting him about his son's behavior, but he slapped her. Ultimately, Moon's resistance faded when Park's mother bribed her own mother to change her reason for dropping out. Soon after, her belongings were abandoned, and her mother disappeared with the bribe money. Forced to work tirelessly, she faced pain from her scars and menstrual cramps, often considering escape through the freezing river but lacking the courage. While Moon suffered, her bullies continued their lives without remorse. After her dropout, they found new targets. One day, Moon confronted them in the gym, filled with vengeful determination, revealing she knew their dreams. Sarah wanted to be a painter, Jay aimed for a golf course, Choi wanted to be a flight attendant, and Sun aspired to be a tycoon. Park's dream of being a good wife and mother made her gang laugh. Park dismissed dreams, believing money solved everything. Moon smiled, a twisted expression signaling the start of her revenge. In 2006, she began working at a textile factory while studying. Her efforts paid off when she passed the high school equivalency exam and prepared for university. By fall of 2008, Moon was accepted into a teacher's college. A young neighbor girl, noticing her studying, began to warm up to her, and they eventually talked when Moon announced she would leave her job. In 2009, Moon started college, driven by her desire for revenge. Now, standing before Park's daughter, Sool, Moon recognized her innocence and inquired about her colorblindness, hinting at future events. She shared her bullying story framed as a fable. Meanwhile, Park broadcast the weather, warning of heavy fog. At home, Moon held the Devil's Horn flower, reciting from the Bible, and declared her intention for vengeance. In 2012, with Facebook in vogue, Moon kept in touch with a neighbor girl to monitor Park and her former bullies. Choi had become a flight attendant. Sarah pursued painting but struggled with drug addiction, while Sun worked menial jobs for Jay, who was wealthy and well-connected. Park and Jay had a casual sexual relationship and were close friends. Now a weather forecaster, Park was about to marry a prominent construction representative, making headlines. Moon attended the wedding, dressed somberly, wishing Park well from afar while humorously apologizing for not bringing a gift. The neighbor girl, now at a travel agency, supported Moon's revenge plan by gathering information. As the group shifted to Instagram, Moon realized she had much to learn, but was determined to proceed, especially since Park's husband would play a crucial role in her plans. Learning that Mr. Ha, Park's husband, was a Go enthusiast, Moon saw an opportunity to get close to him. After fainting from exhaustion and being hospitalized, she found herself next to Ju, the hospital director's son, who was intrigued by her. He later sought her out at college to remind her about her anemia medication, eager to see her again, but Moon remained indifferent. In 2012, Moon met Ju at a Go corner in the park, where he offered to teach her. As her tutor, Ju described Go as a silent battle of strategy, resonating with Moon's quest for revenge. They played through the seasons, and though Moon never won, she became skilled enough to compete with amateurs. After passing her teacher's exam in spring 2015, Moon prepared to become an elementary school teacher. She was excited to learn that Park was pregnant, seeing the child as a key part of her revenge. By 2021, on Park's birthday, her husband gifted her green high heels, which delighted her. Meanwhile, while collecting trash, Moon discovered a will belonging to director Kim, which named an unexpected beneficiary, raising her suspicions. In March 2022, as Park broadcasts the weather, Ju, now a doctor, began watching forecasts, feeling a connection to Moon. Sun continued running errands for Jay and encountered Moon at a boutique, where they reminisced. Moon provoked him by criticizing his incompetence and hinted at shocking news, piquing his interest. Moon also learned about Eden Apartments, which overlooked Park's home, aligning perfectly with her plans. However, when she returned to search through director Kim's trash and found it empty, she noticed the maid with a bag. The maid, who had been watching Moon, proposed a partnership. She would help Moon if Moon assisted her in killing her husband, adding a new layer to Moon's plans. The maid and her daughter had suffered years of domestic violence, prompting the maid to seek extreme measures for their safety. Understanding their situation, Moon offered to hire the maid as a nanny, promising to punish her husband and tutor the maid's daughter weekly. The maid became Moon's spy, tasked with gathering information about Park and director Kim. Her first assignment was to follow Park, capturing blurry photos that nonetheless revealed important information. Moon discovered that Park had taken her daughter to an optician for color blindness, leading her to suspect that Sewell might be Park and Jay's child. Meanwhile, Park's daughter, playing dress-up, expressed a desire to be a weather presenter. When she mistakenly identified her shoes as red instead of green, it confirmed her red-green color blindness. Park reassured her, emphasizing the shoes' value over their color. One day, she ran into Ju, who had become a doctor. They caught up awkwardly, and Ju reminisced about their past, offering her his card in case she wanted to reach out. Moon started visiting the Pagoda Go Club, where Park's husband, Ha, played weekly. She won several games, drawing attention as a young female Go expert, which intrigued Ha. He reflected on their last game just as Park arrived, noting a player who could have won mid-game but chose to play until the end, qualities he admired in Park. When Moon visited Eden Apartments to collect her mail, the landlady questioned her about her low utility usage, suspecting she didn't live there often. Moon calmly explained she was still job hunting in Samyong City. Though Moon and the maid usually avoided each other, the maid got into the car with a crucial video showing director Kim's affair with his driver, strengthening their case against him. As Moon analyzed it, the maid's laughter lifted her spirits. Later, Moon met Sun on their old high school rooftop. Although he knew of her revenge plans, he felt excluded, which angered him. Moon reminded him of Yoon, a bullied girl who had tragically fallen from the rooftop, hinting at a deeper connection. Moon asked Sun for hair samples from Jay to confirm paternity regarding Park's daughter, masking her true feelings of hatred towards him. Meanwhile, Park and others returned to their former high school for an alumni award ceremony, where Park was honored. Choi was busy trying to contact Sun, while hoping to impress a wealthy suitor, unaware that he was secretly assisting Moon. When Moon entered the gym, she shocked Park and the others, who didn't recognize her due to their past mistreatment. Moon had been following Park's career and claimed to have changed jobs, now thriving as Saul's homeroom teacher, having leveraged director Kim's secrets for the transfer. As Moon watched Park receive her award, painful memories of her own bullying resurfaced. When the ceremony ended and the students left, Moon remained, clapping mockingly. Park couldn't hold back her anger and slapped Moon, who knew that Park had achieved her dreams, a respectable job, a wealthy husband, and a seemingly happy life. Moon's presence unsettled Park, especially since any revelation of past bullying could damage her public image. Before leaving, Moon mockingly suggested that Jay was colorblind for not seeing the vibrant world around him, leaving feeling satisfied. Park and her friends were shocked by Moon's return, leading to a heated discussion in their group chat that revealed their dynamics. Park used affectionate nicknames for some but addressed Choi and Sun formally, indicating clear boundaries. Suddenly, Park's daughter called about a milk spill and mentioned that her new homeroom teacher was Teacher Moon, making Park realize this might be part of Moon's revenge. Meanwhile, Moon started her first class by asserting that parental authority, job status, and wealth meant nothing in her classroom, ensuring no student would be bullied for their background. Although other teachers had biases, they underestimated her determination. Upon learning Moon was her daughter's teacher, Park rushed to the school, realizing she had fallen into Moon's trap. Amused by Park's fear, Moon stood firm against her threats, confident in her power. In the background, Choi's group chat revealed their old homeroom teacher had died, and Park instinctively connected this to Moon. The narrative shifted to Moon's revenge against the teacher who had abused her when she threatened to report bullying. Moon had kept in touch with the teacher's son, pretending to be interested in him while plotting her revenge. When she visited her son with flowers after he passed a civil service exam, she was confronted by her old teacher, who panicked upon seeing her. Moon had brought lilies, knowing the teacher had asthma. Instead of giving them to him, she handed them to his son, sarcastically congratulating him, which angered the teacher. However, the son soon learns of his father's past actions toward Moon. Moon threatened to report the teacher to the Department of Education, knowing that nepotism could jeopardize his son's career. To protect his reputation, the son filled their home with lilies, triggering his father's asthma and leading to his death. Later, Moon met her high school doctor, who had tried to help her and supported her revenge plans. She asked for a photo of Yoon, another bullying victim, recalling her sorrow for Yoon's suffering. The doctor encouraged Moon, offering his support. Meeting Sun at a railway crossing, Moon learned he had stolen Sarah's drug trade records during the award ceremony. They shared a meal, during which Sun handed over Sarah's ledger and details about Choi's wealthy suitor. Moon mentioned she had taken Jay's hair for DNA testing, confirming he had an illegitimate child, which could be used as leverage. Moon then gave Sun a note to check a freezer in the hospital morgue. He discovered Yoon's name there. Her death was ruled a suicide, but her missing parents refused to cremate her. This information set Sun up for blackmail against the killer. Meanwhile, the maid tracked Ha's visits to the chess club where he went every Friday night. When Ha arrived, he instinctively looked for Moon, who played it cool and sat down at the chessboard. After a casual game, Moon unexpectedly won, piquing Ha's interest. He proposed a rematch for $300, which she eagerly accepted. Moon enjoyed Go for its subtlety, and realized she had successfully drawn Ha into her plans. After finishing a game, Moon went to a convenience store for a meal when Ha drove by and stopped to chat. Curious about her, he tried to learn more, but she was evasive, enjoying the thrill of outsmarting opponents. Ha, intrigued, gave her his business card and invited her to play Go again, to which she implicitly agreed by suggesting he bring more money next time. Unknown to them, their conversation was being recorded. Moon had moved into Eden Apartments, where the landlady watered her plants. One day, Moon joked with her about the low rent, keeping her secrets hidden. Meanwhile, the maid followed Park's mother, reflecting on her past and finding hope in her collaboration with Moon. She discovered that Park's mother regularly met with the former police chief. The maid proposed stealing Choi's phone, thinking she would be an easy target. On the day Choi was flying abroad, the maid switched their phones in an airport restroom. By the time Choi realized this, it was too late. She then presented the phone to Moon. Park, anxious about Moon being her daughter's teacher, sought a meeting with the principal. Upon learning Moon had been recommended by Director Kim, Park's attitude changed, and she requested to see Moon's impressive resume. During a class, Sul argued about a flower's color, revealing her colorblindness. Moon, noticing Park watching, placed scissors on Sol's shoulder, causing Park to panic. After class, Park offered Moon a bribe to stay away from Sul, but Moon, recalling her own suffering, refused. Park's arrogance only fueled Moon's desire for revenge, and she hinted at knowing about Sul's condition, shocking Park. Desperate, Park approached her husband about sending Sol abroad for studies, but he questioned her sudden interest, leaving her frustrated. She then turned to the former police chief to have Moon investigated. Meanwhile, Moon's plans unfolded. Ju received an anonymous envelope containing Sol's toothbrush, hinting at her true identity. In the church, Sarah felt uncomfortable as Moon stared at her. Moon gathered evidence of Sarah's drug use and demanded cash within 2 weeks, leaving Sarah with no choice but to comply. Later, Park, Sarah, and Ju met on a rooftop, each expressing anxieties while hiding secrets. Moon visited an old park where she used to play Go with Ju and messaged him after years of silence, surprising him. Ju was excited to hear from her and quickly called for a meetup. At the Go Park, Moon Moon used an inquiry about his medicine as an excuse to apologize for her past behavior. Sensing it was a farewell, Ju confessed his feelings, but Moon expressed that she needed a partner for revenge, not a romantic relationship. Later, Moon met Sun at a restaurant and admired his tattoo, which reminded her of his past and triggered memories of high school. Sun, curious about Yoon's murderer, asked Moon for information. She whispered a name, igniting his dreams of wealth. Sun arranged meetings with several people, but on the night he was to become rich, he was attacked and left unconscious, echoing his tattoo's message, "I am dead." Days later, Sun was missing and presumed dead. Jae, who hadn't been home for days, collapsed onto the sofa and noticed his dog barking at a disheveled coat closet. Remembering a call from Sun a few days prior, Jae realized Sun had been there and mistakenly thought he sent Seol's toothbrush. Meanwhile, Park, feeling guilty and usually disrespectful toward her mother, visited a sorcerer seeking help to exorcise evil spirits. Afterward, she searched for any online comments about her past as a school bully, but found none, which relieved her. Although Park's relationships with her colleagues were strained, her wealthy husband helped her stay in her job by investing in advertising during contract renewals. Later, Park participated in a radio program discussing the phenomena of polar day and polar night, wishing her audience a bright night like polar day. After work, she dressed elegantly for a dinner party. Choi, excited about a man picking out a large diamond ring, was reminded to appease his vegetarian mother. However, she forgot about her lost phone, which Moon had found, revealing inappropriate photos and candid shots of Jae. It was clear that Choi had feelings for Jae, despite his indifference in the past. Choi soon received an anonymous package containing photos from her phone and assumed it was a threat from Sun. Fearing for her upcoming marriage, she discarded the photos and sought Sun's address to address the issue privately. When visiting Jae's house, she spitefully suggests that Park might be with Sun, angering Jae. Before leaving, Jae asked about Seol, and Choi recalled Seol's birth timing, making Jae suspect he could be her father. He also noticed Choi wearing the same green high heels as Park. Meanwhile, Sarah, unable to contact Sun, faced disruptions in her drug supply and painted to cope with her cravings. In a daze, she painted a green shoe, hinting at witnessing something sinister, suggesting that one of the owners of those shoes, Park, Choi, or Moon, could be involved in a crime. At Moon's place, the maid noted Sun's disappearance, mentioning he usually returned home if someone watched over him. However, since visiting a travel agency, he had vanished entirely. Moon, unaware of his fate, advised the maid to keep searching while she checked with the agency. She later learned from a neighbor that Sun had bought a one-way ticket to Vladivostok, but there was no record of him boarding or checking into a hotel. Moon concluded he was likely dead, a possibility she had anticipated as part of her revenge plan against Park's husband, Mr. Ha. The maid called Moon, claiming she was being followed. After a brief chase, they encountered thugs sent by the former police chief, who threatened them for money, forcing Moon to leave her number for further instructions. Meanwhile, inspired by his feelings for Moon, Ju decided to open a clinic in Semyong City, quitting his hospital job. Mr. Ha received an envelope containing Sun's business card and a photo of him with Moon, prompting him to investigate Park's friends. Unable to reach Sun, Ha went to Jae's golf course, where they exchanged business cards and agreed to share information about Sun. Ha noticed similarities between Jae and Park, deepening his suspicions. Ha's construction company completed a Go-themed square, attracting enthusiasts like Ju, who messaged Moon to propose a game. Meanwhile, Moon was reminded of her painful past and collapsed while working on a car, but a passerby helped her up. Feeling trapped by her former bully's success, she knew she had to confront them. At Ju's new home, Moon revealed her desire for revenge. Ju, initially hesitant, accepted her need for vengeance after seeing her scars. He promised to help her with her wounds and asked who her target was in Go. Moon revealed it was Ha, wanting to ensure no one remained by Park's side after her revenge. Ju shared his home password, 3724, wanting to play Go without limits. Although he had left his hospital job, he still received mail related to a prisoner who had killed his father, causing him distress. Moon connected with Ju over their shared pain and later asked him to hire a school doctor who had helped her during bullying. Moon visited Sarah, who reluctantly brought cash despite her disdain for her. Moon warned her that life would feel like hell, hinting at a larger plan involving the maid's daughter. Park sensed something was wrong with Ha, who had met Jae privately, leading her to confront him. Choi, trying to impress her wealthy boyfriend's mother, encountered Moon, who had been gathering information. Choi, fearing exposure, apologized for her actions under Park's influence. Moon threatened her with a burning piece of wood and instructed her to report Sun's disappearance. As the police contacted Jae about Sun, tensions rose among the women. Meanwhile, Ha and Jae attended an open class at Saul's school, where Jae confronted Ha about an alleged illegitimate child, shocking Ha as he realized Moon was Saul's homeroom teacher. After school, Ha and his daughter Sol walked to the gate, with Jae lingering nearby. Once Sol was in the car, Ha spoke to Jae, who hinted at Sol's inherited traits but didn't push further. Jae then asked about Sun's disappearance, but he had lost interest in finding him after seeing Moon in class. When Moon approached Jae with a drawing, he realized her actions since the awards ceremony had been planned all along. Starting 18 years ago when she was bullied, Jae warned Moon not to involve Sol, but Moon revealed she knew Sul was his daughter, having sent her a toothbrush. This shifted Jae's attitude, and he accepted a drawing from Moon as a gift. Meanwhile, at Park's house, she panicked upon learning of Ha's visit to the school. After questioning Sul, who mentioned Jae, Park's concern grew, realizing Jae's connection to Moon. Ha, seeking clarity, spoke with Choi about Moon and Park's past bullying incidents, which led to Moon dropping out of school. Ha understood Moon was playing a larger game. At Go Square, he found Ju playing Go and realized Ju was part of Moon's plans. They discussed Ju's reasons for moving to Semyong City and Ha's potential call to Moon, which Ju believed was imminent. When Ha returned home, he questioned Park about her history with Moon. She downplayed their past, but seemed guilty when he pressed for details. Park was also distracted by Moon, and after an encounter with her assistant regarding an injury, she obsessively cleaned her shoes, hinting at a hidden crime. The former police chief contacted Park about a meeting, leading her to consider approaching Moon's mother for information, despite the woman being unhelpful due to her unstable mental state. Meanwhile, Moon and Ju discussed Moon's mother, revealing that she was part of Moon's revenge plan. Moon met with the maid, giving her a large sum of money for her daughter's studies abroad, indicating the next phase of her revenge was underway. Ha canceled his weekend plans to meet Moon, seeking clarity on her relationship with Park. When they met, Moon expressed her love for God, tying it to her abandoned dream of becoming an architect. Unbeknownst to them, Park found Moon's address and broke into her apartment, shocked by the extensive planning revealed in photographs. As she contemplated her next move, Ha entered the room, having followed Moon's address, while Moon sat at Ju's house, playing Go and executing her strategy. Meanwhile, Ju visited the morgue, only to find it empty. The scene flashes back to October 17th, 2 days before Sun's death. After buying a ticket to Russia, Sun left the travel agency. Park's husband learned from his assistant that Sun was trying to reach him, but Sarah, who was stealing money to meet Moon's demands, answered first. Sun wanted to meet Sarah to discuss Yoon, the bullied girl, but she hung up on him. Sun then confronted Jae, a wealthy bully, rummaging through his clothes and threatening to expose Jae's embezzlement and false alibi for Park during Yoon's death. He demanded money within 48 hours. Afterward, Sun called Choi and unexpectedly confessed his feelings, suggesting they elope, which alarmed her. He then threatened Moon to hand over Park's ID card or face repercussions from Park and the gang. Moon smiled, realizing it was her chance for revenge, and firmly rejected Sun's threats. Sun planned to shock Park by pretending to have the ID card and arranged to meet her that night, marking his final calls before his death on the 19th. In the present, Ha arrived at Moon's apartment and found Park there. He noticed the forced door lock and a wall full of photos, prompting him to question Park about her past. Feeling unrepentant, Park expressed disappointment in Ha being at another woman's place. After Park left, Ha inspected the room, showing courtesy by removing his shoes. Unlike Park, he found a photo of Park with her daughter and Jae, leading him to suspect infidelity. Meanwhile, Ju, who wanted to help Moon with her revenge, went to the mortuary but found it empty. After learning the body was in the freezer, he decided to become Moon's executioner. He visited his mother and asked to use a scalpel, reflecting on his father's death at the hands of a prisoner he saved. The police investigated Sun's disappearance and questioned Jae, who hinted at Ha's drug use. Park, hosting a TV program, encountered Moon, who exuded confidence despite her fear of heat from past bullying. When they sat down, Park belittled Moon, who calmly revealed a video of Park picking a lock. Park was taken aback when Moon presented an old dropout application detailing the bullying bullying she suffered. Moon offered Park one last chance to confess and apologize to the victims at the police station, which would halt her revenge. Park insisted she had done nothing wrong, claiming her bullying had strengthened Moon. This response erased any remaining guilt Moon felt, and she fully committed to her revenge plan. Meanwhile, Ha began to doubt Seol's paternity. His secretary informed him the police wanted to question him about Seol's disappearance and handed him a USB with a recording that hinted at his wife's infidelity. This fueled Ha's anger, and upon returning home, he found bags from Jae's boutique scattered in the dressing room, confirming his suspicions. The next day, Ha visited the boutique, where the clerk recognized him. He examined the fitting room closely, infuriated at the thought of his wife being intimate with Jae. Meanwhile, Moon stayed at Ju's house, where he set up a warm tent for her, marking a new beginning. They celebrated their cohabitation with a romantic picnic. The bully gang met to discuss Sun's case. Park brought a challenge letter from Moon, revealing past school violence. They learned Sun's disappearance was now linked to drug abuse, which scared Sarah, who worried about her own drug use being exposed. When Sun mentions Yoon, the group taunts Park, knowing her responsibility for Yoon's death. Although Jae had previously covered for Park, he now seemed focused on his child and potential divorce. Feeling pressured, Park called the former police chief, who confirmed that the nameplate related to the case was destroyed and Yoon's body was likely decomposed. This news sent Park into a manic state. Unknown to them, Moon had picked up Yoon's nameplate and placed it in the police station's complaint box, hoping to reopen the investigation, but it was intercepted by the police chief and given to Park's mother. Moon was later questioned by the police about her connection to Sun, revealing her plan to draw him out regarding the Yoon case. Despite having a fake nameplate, she hoped it would expose Park's involvement in Sun's disappearance. The police remained skeptical, focusing on Sun's drug use instead. Frustrated by their lack of interest in crucial matters, Moon decided to retrieve important materials from the former school doctor. Reviewing the investigation records, she discovered Yoon had been pregnant when she died, intensifying her desire for revenge against Sun. Upon returning to Eden Apartments, Moon organized her photographs but noticed one was missing: the picture of the maid's abusive husband. In the parking lot, Park knocked on the maid's car window, having tracked her down. When Park looked at the photos on Moon's wall, she noticed the maid's husband as the only unfamiliar face, which led her to have the police chief investigate. Suspecting that Moon had help, she discovered through vehicle registration checks that 2 cars were involved, pointing to the maid. The maid, wanting to appear strong, threatened Park. However, when Park mentioned her daughter, the maid softened and pleaded for mercy. Park offered to help the maid kill her abusive husband faster than Moon could, and the maid agreed, turning off her phone and fleeing with her daughter that night. Meanwhile, Moon was unable to reach the maid and asked Choi to lure Park to Ju's cosmetic surgery clinic. Choi complied out of fear that Moon might reveal her past to her mother-in-law. After their call, Moon's mother approached her, having been influenced by Park, who had previously tried to get Moon expelled from school. Initially resistant, Moon's mother accepted Park's offer of money, knowing Moon was in Semyong City. When her mother revealed she had proof of their blood relation, Moon realized Park was manipulating both her mother and the maid. At the clinic, Choi mentioned a game between Ha and Moon, angering Park, while Ju comforted her. That day, Jae learned from a clerk that Ha had recently visited his boutique. He checked the surveillance footage and found all recordings before the 19th were missing, likely due to Park's interference. As Moon searched for the maid, she spotted the maid's abusive husband buying alcohol nearby. Just then, she received a message from the maid, and they later met in a parking lot. The maid reassured Moon that she hadn't been bribed and explained her absence was to protect her daughter. They laughed over the arrangement, with the maid agreeing to act as Park's informant. Moon then took the girl to the school doctor's house, promising to help her drop out and study in the US. The girl expressed fear of her father, who had threatened harm if they tried to escape. Moon encouraged her to trust her mother and focus on her studies. While shopping, the school doctor recalled a surveillance video Ju had shown her of Sun and how the police had questioned Ju. It turned out Sun visited the morgue the same day Ju was there, which led to Ju getting Sun's contact information. At Park's house, Ha was cold and questioned her about meeting Choi. Disappointed by Park's lack of guilt, he realized Moon had sent him a photo to prompt him to find Sun and arranged to meet Moon to discuss her plan. During their meeting, Moon revealed her scars as evidence of her suffering and expressed her desire for revenge against Park. She hoped he would leave Park, but he was uncertain, wanting to continue seeing Moon. Moon. Meanwhile, Park sought Ju's help for a beauty treatment and hoped to use anesthesia to rest. As she began to drift off, Ju unexpectedly asked about Sun, startling her. In her unconscious state, Park remembered the confrontation with Sun at Jae's boutique, where he accused her of Yoon's murder. Sun had secretly recorded their conversation, but a call interrupted him. When Park released the recording, she destroyed his phone in anger. Sun confronted her about being on the rooftop the day Yoon died, claiming he had evidence. In a panic, Park tried to grab something from Sun's pocket, revealing her guilt. He then demanded $1 billion from her, and in a fit of rage, Park struck him with a wine bottle, knocking him unconscious. Sun wasn't fully unconscious, and as Park tried to escape, he managed to grab her foot, cutting it with his ring. Although she could have called for help, Park chose to ignore him, changed her blood-stained clothes, and sought the police chief's help to cover up the situation. Sun's body was later taken to an abandoned funeral home, where the chief ordered his men to remove any evidence before deciding to store the body in a freezer for his own benefit. Later, Park woke up at Ju's clinic, confused about whether her previous conversation about Sun was real or a hallucination. She rushed home, anxious that she might have confessed to killing Sun. When Ju knocked on her car window, he reassured her that she hadn't revealed anything significant, relieving her. Park then attempted to improve her relationship with Ha by cooking for him, but he remained unresponsive. She confronted him about playing Go with Moon, accusing him of infidelity, but he countered by accusing her of the same with Jae. Meanwhile, preparations for the maid's daughter to study abroad were underway, but the maid was being watched by thugs sent by Park, fearing she wouldn't be able to say goodbye at the airport. Moon's neighbor, disguised as a delivery person, helped by delivering a package containing details about the daughter's program and a mobile phone. Inside, there was also a red lipstick gift for the maid. As the day approached, Moon texted the maid about her daughter's flight. Just as the maid was about to leave, Park unexpectedly appeared. To avoid suspicion, the maid pretended to be grocery shopping while secretly anxious about her daughter's departure. Park, suspecting something, questioned the maid, who offered to provide information about any other helpers she might know. Park instructed the maid to keep following Choi and report back. Before leaving, she revealed that the maid's abusive husband hadn't been home lately, warning that she had stopped giving him money, implying trouble was ahead for the maid. This led the maid to miss her chance to say goodbye to her daughter, who left for the airport without her. Moon discreetly watched from a distance while the maid had previously written a heartfelt letter to her daughter's host family in the US, expressing her love and requesting they take good care of her. Relieved by a message from her daughter confirming her safe arrival, the maid now turned her attention to dealing with her abusive husband. When he came home drunk, he confronted her about a large sum of cash he found in her bag, which she claimed was given to her by a stranger. Her husband discovered a draft of a ransom message on her phone, revealing the trap set by the maid and Moon. Meanwhile, Park's mother was using her connections, even influencing a morgue worker at Ju's father's hospital to gather information about Yoon's body. Upon learning that both Ju and Sun had visited Yoon's body, Park's mother panicked and sought help from the police chief, fearing the exposure of her daughter. Meanwhile, Choi retrieved Sun's tablet, finding a voice recording from the night of his death, which provided evidence against Park. Jae tried to recover surveillance footage from his shop's system to gather more evidence. Meanwhile, Ju purchased the abandoned funeral home where Sun's body was stored, pledging to help Moon as her accomplice. That evening, Sul, while trying on her mother's green heels, questioned a clerk about the shoes, implying there might be blood on them, suggesting that the clerk knew something significant. That day, Park received a weather warning about an impending surge that could wipe everything away in an instant, though the water remained calm for now. Everyone now held evidence of Park's crime. The abandoned funeral home, discovered by the maid, played a crucial role. She had followed the police chief and sneaked in twice, noticing suspicious activity in the cold room. Moon shared her suspicions about Sun's body being inside with Ju, and after confirming the owner was in America, Ju used his resources to buy the funeral home. When they tried to investigate, the caretaker was dismayed to learn Ju was the new owner, as he had been hiding bodies there for the chief. Rather than alert the police, Moon and Ju decided to use the situation to their advantage, suspecting that Sun's body was a tool for the police chief's corruption. Ju collected skin tissue from Park while she was under anesthesia, further linking her to the crime. Meanwhile, Park questioned the maid about any other accomplices, and upon learning of Ju's identity, realized she had been set up. In a parallel storyline, Jay, furious after learning his daughter Saul had been photographed by a perverted teacher, confronted the teacher violently. Despite facing legal trouble, he refused to settle, insisting the crime was serious. Ha and his lawyer arrived with a settlement agreement, but Jay felt it was unjust. This led to a physical altercation between Jay and Ha at the police station. Park learned about the incident and confronted Ha, who asserted Saul was his daughter, causing Park to be momentarily stunned. Meanwhile, the maid's abusive husband, now sober and plotting, was also a source of distress for Park's mother, who had been leveraging her connections with the police chief. The police chief was under pressure due to an anonymous tip regarding illegally stored bodies, particularly Yoon's, which had been preserved for years due to her mother's insistence on justice. Ju's mother challenged the police's investigation, determined to protect her late husband's legacy. As Moon's revenge plan unfolded, she faced challenges from her own mother, who was extorting parents at her school. A confrontation over gifts turned violent, leaving Moon feeling hopeless but supported by Ju, who respected her need for space. Moon escalated her plan against Sarah, who was desperate for drugs. Using a connection, she set up a trap in an abandoned church, inviting Sarah to a show while alerting the church community to the event. When the scene unfolded, Sarah, in a drug-induced state, began to hallucinate and expose her past misdeeds. Park arrived at the church, exchanging a tense glance with Moon, who did not deny her involvement. Park dismissed the severity of Sarah's actions, but Moon warned her to be careful. Meanwhile, the neighbor girl reported Park's past incidents of school violence online, further complicating Park's situation. As the pressure mounted, Park questioned how Moon knew so much, but Moon revealed she had more than just evidence to back her claims. Moon's revenge plan officially began with Sarah, whose drug abuse had become widely known. As Sarah prepared to flee, dyeing her hair to avoid detection, the police arrived at her home. She refused to cooperate with a urine test, feeling victimized and demanding more legal support. Meanwhile, Park faced growing scrutiny over her past, particularly the school violence incident tied to her. The maid left an anonymous comment online implicating Park, which gained traction, leading to Park hiding out at a fortune teller's place. Ha! Park's husband coldly suggested they address the crisis rather than separating, and took her to see the company lawyer. Park stubbornly refused to acknowledge the truth, believing silence was the best response, shocking Ha with her defiance. At a Go game, Ha noticed Ju's style resembled Moon's. Ju shared his perspective on revenge, saying that reclaiming lost honor was essential for moving forward, which Ha found enlightening. Park, feeling confident, searched for clues in her boutique but found nothing, believing she was safe as evidence had vanished. Meanwhile, Jay retrieved an analyzed hard drive, discovering that it had no recoverable data. Deepening his curiosity about the events on the 19th, Choi met with Jay and played a recording of Sun from that day, revealing Sun had threatened Park. Jay connected the dots between the alcohol mentioned and his boutique, realizing Sun and Park had been there. In a surprising turn, Jay proposed raising his daughter with Choi, leading to a budding romance between them. Park, unaware of their relationship, confronted Choi at Jay's house, but Choi, feeling empowered by Park's scandals, dismissed her questions. Choi then visited Sarah in detention, provoking her by highlighting Park's scandals. Meanwhile, Moon sought out a clerk from Jay's shop who had been bullied in school and might know more about Sun's death. Moon hoped the clerk would remain silent, as the truth was still unclear. During the day, Moon expressed gratitude to her landlady for her support, which touched her. Cleaning at home, Moon found Ju's letters and torture tools, hinting at his own revenge plans. Instead of confronting him, she prepared dinner, and they shared a moment that brought them closer. Ju was secretly preparing to become a prison doctor to confront the man who killed his father. Meanwhile, the maid continued her revenge against Park's mother, seeking advice from a fortune teller who misinterpreted her intentions. Both women plotted against the maid's abusive husband. The former police chief, under pressure, confessed to Park that the body had not been disposed of, asking for a house in return. Panic set in for Park when she learned the police had discovered a male body body with a tattoo confirming it was Sun. Sun's body was found beneath the abandoned building where Yoon had jumped to her death, causing panic for the police chief and Park when they discovered it had disappeared. Choi informed Park of the discovery, marking a low point for her as she vented her frustration. Meanwhile, Moon was forced to resign from her teaching job due to her mother's bribery. Before leaving, she apologized to Seoul, regretting that revenge would impact innocent children. She confronted her mother, who refused to move out and caused a fire in their home while drunk. Moon captured the chaos on camera, leading to her mother being hospitalized for mental health issues. After the apartment fire, Ju helped with repairs and met the landlady, who praised Moon for saving her life. Moon, however, claimed not to remember any such act. Ha read a damning article about Park's past, realizing it could implicate her in Yoon's death. He sought confirmation from Moon, who provided Yoon's mother's address, but withheld details about the body's location. Park, feeling desperate, tried to manipulate Jae into providing her with an alibi, which he reluctantly agreed to after confirming the body's location. Unbeknownst to Park, Jae was plotting to secure custody of Saul and had evidence linking her to Sun's death. As Sarah was released on bail, she began plotting revenge against Park, using an old phone to gather evidence of Park's past bullying. Sarah confronted Park, but when Park showed interest in a bag, Sarah decided to bring her down. That night, Park returned to the funeral home to find a missing charm and encountered Ju, who returned it with a warning. The police chief, facing mounting pressure, prepared to flee, but was interrupted by Park's mother, who was involved in a fatal hit-and-run incident. Park's mother, after hitting the abusive husband, claimed it was an accident, but the chief suspected foul play. She revealed she had kept evidence against him for years, giving her leverage in their relationship. Meanwhile, Park received a text from her mother, who was at the police station. With the chief's backing, they were temporarily released. Park's mother sought a fortune teller, where Yoon's spirit seemed to haunt them, revealing past traumas linked to Yoon's death. Moon, who had been orchestrating events behind the scenes, threatened the fortune teller to ensure the ritual benefited her plans against Park. As the investigation into Yoon's death reopened, Moon insisted on testing a lighter left at the scene, which could finally connect Park to the crime. Park suddenly collapsed after seeming to see something in the sky, expressing that the dead shouldn't be there. Her assistants fled, fearing divine punishment, while a wind swept by as Moon watched the ritual, tearful and unafraid. Moon had intended for the fortune teller to frighten Park, but the encounter took on a supernatural feel when the fortune teller referenced a private incident involving Park and Yoon. This unexpected twist resonated in a country steeped in spirituality. Throughout the series, themes of faith evolve. In the first season, Moon felt abandoned by God, but by the second season, the landlady suggested that help was delayed, ultimately indicating that divine support had arrived for Moon. On the same day, the maid learned of her husband's death and was overwhelmed with mixed emotions, reflecting on the burden of orchestrating his demise while feeling liberated from his abuse. When she encountered Park, who was connected to her husband's death, tensions escalated, leading to the maid slapping Park and warning her against using children as leverage. Park's husband, Ha, confronted her, demanding she apologize or face divorce. Park stubbornly refused, prompting Ha to initiate legal proceedings, which quickly became a trending topic. Various characters reacted, with Jae seeking custody of his child and Ju feeling upset over Ha's newfound single status. As the maid scattered her husband's ashes, she refused reconciliation with Park's mother, who was puzzled by the rejection. Moon confronted Park's mother about her involvement in her husband's death, offering an ultimatum regarding a nameplate linked to Park. Meanwhile, Park faced backlash at work after Sarah released a video exposing her past bullying, leading to her resignation. Park's daughter, Seoul, was affected by the fallout, feeling disappointment in her mother. Despite Park's attempts to manipulate public perception, her lies about Yoon's suicide ultimately backfired, as some media outlets sympathized with her. The atmosphere was tense during Sun's funeral as old bullying dynamics resurfaced. A fight broke out between Sarah and Choi, resulting in Sarah being arrested for assault. Choi's injuries left her voiceless, leading to the end of her relationship with Jae, who no longer saw her as valuable. With the investigation into Yoon's case reopened, Moon learned more about Yoon's pregnancy and realized her misunderstanding about the child's paternity. Meanwhile, Ha paid for Yoon's body storage, demonstrating a final act of kindness. As Park dealt with the consequences of her actions, Moon texted her about the recovered nameplate. Park witnessed a transaction between Moon and her mother, deepening the rift between them. The nameplate, now irrelevant legally, symbolized their estrangement. With Park's world collapsing, Moon began to move on, helping the maid start anew and supporting her neighbor. Moon reminisced about their shared struggles and the bond they formed during dark times, ready to embrace a fresh start. As she reflected on the journey of revenge and healing, Ju began plotting his revenge and visited inmate number 3724 in prison to learn why the facility was responsible for his father's death. His father, the hospital director, had treated the inmate despite his crimes, but before the surgery, he warned the nurse to tell his son not to eat instant noodles, which sparked the inmate's desire to meet his own son. After waking up during the operation, the inmate saw an opportunity to kill Ju's father, leading to a series of tragic events that left Ju determined to seek revenge. However, Ju's application to become a prison doctor was denied, delaying his plans. Unexpectedly, Yoon's mother fainted, and Moon discovered that Ju was listed as her emergency contact, revealing a deeper connection between them. Moon had been orchestrating encounters with Ju since university, targeting him all along, but she also developed feelings for him. After confessing her feelings, they agreed to pursue their revenge together, targeting Jae, who had glaucoma. Moon devised a plan involving Jae's eye drops, leading to a dangerous incident where Jae crashed his car after using the tampered drops. He ultimately fell from a construction site, disappearing into a cement pool. Meanwhile, Park faced consequences for her actions when a video of her attacking son resurfaced, leading to her arrest. Ha, her husband, signed the divorce papers and left for the UK with their daughter, symbolically wearing a floral tie that hinted at his involvement in Jae's death. As Park remained arrogant in prison, Moon confronted her, revealing that she had framed Park for Yoon's murder using a sample taken by Ju. This revelation resulted in Park being charged with intentional homicide. The truth about Sun's death came to light, implicating others in the plot against Park. In the aftermath, Moon's revenge was complete. She and Ju shared a heartfelt moment by the sea, but soon after, Moon mysteriously disappeared again. She returned to the rooftop where Yoon died, contemplating her past. Just as she was about to jump, Ju's mother intervened, reminding her of Ju's struggles with his father's death. Months later, Park and her mother faced consequences together in prison. Moon had been volunteering and eventually used her connections to transfer the inmate who had harmed her family to a harsher prison. Ju, now a prison physician, awaited his chance for revenge. Moon resumed her studies and showed her commitment to her cause by getting a tattoo symbolizing her renewal. She celebrated her and Yoon's shared birthday by bringing flowers to Yoon's grave, marking a new chapter in her life.